Well, time for another episode of the Carolina Packers podcast. This is going to be a good one. We get back and, after a little hiatus, revisit our, I guess, was it prior to the season?
Yeah,
rankings?
It was preseason.
Preseason
Yeah.
rankings,
Prior to the season.
power rankings, and do some adjustments. I'm sure everyone is a little bit taken aback by what's been going on in the season. Honestly, after the first couple weeks, I thought that our entire ranking was just blown to pieces and we were going to look like idiots. Right now, though, except for a couple that I don't think anyone saw coming,
Yeah.
for the most part, I feel pretty good. There's a
Yeah.
couple that are moving like one or two spots, but I don't know that there's anything that's dropping from like A to a D or something like that. So
I mean, there's some uprisings.
there's some uprisings, yeah. That's true. And we'll talk
raises
about
in
that
the-
when we get to it,
Yeah.
which will be soon. But yeah, let's just run through
Let's
this.
go through it.
And we're going to just, this is our original. We're going to start with our preseason ranks and just start moving things around as we see fit. We talked a little bit before going live about how we want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
We're not professional analysts. We don't have an
No.
equation. So it's difficult to be able to weigh how much do you count current record, quality of wins versus talent on the team. I mean, some of these teams arguably have a lot of talent and
Yeah.
are just floundering. Some teams clearly are playing above their talent. And then there's also just sort of the luck of some plays, as we'll get to as well. There's some teams that have been eking out wins. Does that make them really strong, or are they going to break down in the last half? So we'll go through and we'll talk about that. And I think for the most part, D will be very representative of what we talk about going forward.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's funny because I feel like obviously looking at this, the Falcons have really surprised. I shouldn't say really surprised. They've gotten a couple more wins than we thought. Obviously,
Marcus Mariota's been better
yeah,
than I think I
definitely.
expected, and the run game has been better.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where it's like obviously the Lions definitely are here to stay.
Yes.
I mean, it's a struggle for them. I think obviously these two New York teams were surprises to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the biggest surprise of the whole entire year so far. I'd say is these two teams with amazing records at this point in the season.
Yeah, I think the Jets are 5-2, and the Giants are 6-1.
Crazy.
Both of those teams, I think, you have to give credit to the defense in a lot of ways, because is Daniel Jones a 6-1 quarterback? I mean, if we were to rank the teams purely by record, it would be very difficult for me to say that the Giants have the offensive power to compete with some of these other teams.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you're talking coaching too. You have to talk about coaching when you're talking about these teams. I mean, if you don't have the players, it's got to be the scheme, right? Because I mean, you're talking about the Giants being 6-1, and really, it's Saquon and who else on offense. Great defense, obviously. Their defense is much improved and everything, but I mean, you're talking.
It's really the line. It must be the offensive line.
The offensive line is improved, but it's really coaching is obviously done really well for them. I mean, it is a great start to their season, that's for sure.
I think, though, looking at the Giants, which I have them up right now, a 6-1 record, but when you look at their wins, they beat the Titans by 1. They beat the Panthers by 3, which was also like a final drive 55-yard field goal or something like that, right? So that could be a loss, feasibly.
Yeah.
They beat the Bears by 8. That's their biggest win, is one possession, right? A touchdown and a go for 2. And I think that they've surprised everyone. Like, they have kept finding ways to win. Their defense has been playing good. Saquon Barkley, of course, has been very strong. But when you look at Daniel Jones's numbers, as we were doing earlier, he does only have 2 interceptions,
Yeah.
which is a strength, but he's not throwing for a lot of yards. And so
He's a game manager.
I would be surprised if we don't see more and more teams just kind of stacking against the run and forcing Daniel Jones to be the playmaker and have to make those clutch passes in games going forward. They have a soft schedule coming up.
That's the good thing too, yeah. I mean, that's the thing though. Like we'll talk about later with like Green Bay and obviously teams that are struggling like that are expected to be amazing. I feel like the 2 New York teams are pretty much opposite. Teams that are doing really well despite personnel.
Yes.
Right? And so I feel like they probably land close to each other. I think the Jets, we definitely move up to B.
Yeah, I think with a record like that, you can't put anything below B. I'm just hesitant to put them at an A or an S purely because I'm not convinced that as the season goes on, we will begin to see them fall off and people sort of prepare for their schemes. I mean, the Jets, again, they invested in the last couple of drafts in their defense. That has clearly paid off for them. I think one of their safeties, their main safety, is like one of the leaders in interceptions.
Definitely, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like the team has gotten better, and also
like Zach Wilson gotten better.
But the thing that we just found out too, though, was their starting running back Breece Hall it looks like is out for the season.
Yes.
They did just get James Robinson within the past hour.
But he has been injured, right? He's coming off injury.
He's another player that's, again, if their scheme is to run, and then have some play actions, they have good wide receiver weapons. They do.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can put them at A yet. Obviously, their record says A. Yeah. Obviously, their record says A. Not S, I wouldn't say. But they're between A and S record-wise. But they're just talent-wise, like we said, we have to bring them down to B.
And just like we've seen teams in years past come hot out of the gate and struggle, or who was it that started last year, like 0-3?
There's teams like
the Bengals a couple
like
years ago started really bad and brought it back, I think. So
there's teams that always start out hot, like aren't as good, or they start out cold and are better.
Start picking up. So there's a lot of teams that are struggling right now that I think are going to pull it together. I don't see tons of obvious room for improvement on these 2 teams.
Yeah.
But we'll see if they continue winning like this. Clearly, they're A.
Yeah, I'd say they're a B tier for sure.
Right now, I feel comfortable with B.
Yeah, I'd say both these teams, and we'll just wait and see exactly.
Because it still feels like an aberration a little bit. They're outplaying, I think, their current experience and talent level. And they're winning, especially in the Giants' case, very, very close games. Like I said, the biggest win was by 8 points. I mean, they're winning 1-possession games, so in final drives kind of situations. So we'll see if they can keep it up, if the breaks keep going their way.
And I think B is right where they're supposed to be.
The Bears, of course, are not doing super good, but
again,
they're playing a little better than I thought. They're struggling offensively, but their defense has been good enough.
It's the same thing with the Falcons. It's just like they're not. You look at them and say, okay, they look not the best, but then their record is different.
Yep.
Because the Falcons are, again, you think, okay, they're not as good, but then they're competing in the NFC South, which is not a good division this year. Of course, we would think the Buccaneers are up there, but the Falcons are, I guess, second, or are they tied for first now?
They're second, I believe, but it's a 1-game difference for all those teams.
And
I think the Falcons, you got to put at C.
I think so too.
Marcus Mariota has played better than I thought he would there. They have some good weapons. I mean, they've been hanging in games a lot better than I expected. The Bears
currently, they're
2-4.
They're currently playing right now in Week 7 against the Patriots.
Yeah.
Again, close game there, but they're 2-4.
Yeah.
Most likely, again, this one's a toss-up between C and D. I think they're fringe C and D, definitely bottom of C if anything.
I actually,
Do you think
I'm
they're
thinking
D?
D.
I agree.
I'm thinking D. I just they might get some wins that we don't
Mhm.
expect. They've got that kind of potential, like most of these teams do. But I think that it's unexpected wins. I don't think that they're going to have any explosive offensive evolution. Right?
Mhm.
They need something reliable. Fields right now is not the answer, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't follow the Bears super closely,
That's the
but
thing,
when I
it's
look
just-
at their stats, he has, 11 completions,
Mhm.
15 completions on maybe 20 attempts, right? They're not throwing the ball. They're a running team without, without a star
Yeah.
standout runner. I guess David
Dave
Montgomery
Montgomery's
is good, but
yeah. But it's one of those
um,
things where it's like, it's again, their record, may be C, but they're just not like they're not going to perform well. Like at the end of the year, we're going to look back and say they're D. I don't want to move them. I don't think they've done enough to be moved. I think that's the way we got to look at it. You mentioned this earlier.
Trust the gut on it.
Just trust the gut until we're forced to do it.
Yep.
So then let's go up to C because I think a couple of these teams will be moved down then.
Browns, I think, are still a C team.
Agreed.
Their record is not very good, but they've hung with some difficult teams. They have the talent, frankly. I mean, Nick Chubb is arguably the best
running back in the league.
Yes, exactly.
Stats-wise, especially.
And you could say that they have the best running back duo in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a contender.
And again,
for sure.
You do have to say it. What, week 7's done?
Yep.
Week 11's Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
So, again, it's one of those situations where it's like, again, we have no clue. He hasn't played football in forever. So
and
we
clearly,
don't know.
We don't think he's going to be great and they're going to get above C, but I think they're not bad enough.
They could become B at the end of the year just based on old Deshaun Watson. If it's the Deshaun Watson of old,
if it is,
they have the weapons
Watson
around him.
Yes.
To bump up to B or whatever. But it could be a little too late coming back week 11.
Amari Cooper has actually played well.
Amari Cooper's great.
Yep.
They have Peoples-Jones. Peoples-Jones is a good wide receiver as well.
And
is Hooper
I'll
there?
Say, Jacoby Brissett. He's played
played decent. Yeah.
I think he is the quintessential backup quarterback, and he keeps you in games. The biggest surprise has been their defense. The Browns' defense has been really poor.
Yeah, that's
and
the big thing.
With Myles Garrett as their linchpin, that is surprising. I think they'll probably turn that around, but I think keep them at C.
I'd say keep them at C as well. I mean, I think again, we have no clue what's going to happen when Deshaun Watson comes back. They could go up to B, but I just say again, like we said about the Bears, keep them where they are, and we'll see what happens. Houston
Texans, I think we can safely drop.
I think they're again. If we're gonna rank them within the tiers, again, doesn't have to happen. But I think at this point, they're right down there with them. Obviously not Lions level, but they're not gonna do as good as the Bears. I think at the end of the year we'll look back on this.
Yep. I mean, they still have Brandon Cooks, but you haven't really heard anything about him too much.
But the thing is they could not right? Because if they could trade them.
Yep.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they have not been able to do anything with the remaining talent that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So
Dameon Pierce is a bright spot of their future. 100% rookie, great running back. Will be definitely a cornerstone for their future. I don't think Davis Mills is the answer.
Yeah.
I think you're talking two good quarterbacks coming up in the draft, and we'll talk about that later. But two top elite level quarterbacks coming up in the draft. Obviously, Alabama and Ohio State with Stroud and Young. But, I mean, I think both of these teams need quarterbacks.
Yes.
Bad.
Yep.
And I think both of them would turn around.
I mean, all three of those teams need quarterbacks.
But I think they're not quite
moving on from
Fields. I think they're going to stick with Fields. All right.
C,
Trevor Lawrence.
I think you got to
Jaguars.
Put C. Trevor Lawrence, of course, one of the most talented college quarterbacks in recent memory.
And it hasn't.
And he's still
hasn't played poorly this year.
No, I mean he's putting up, I think, pretty good sophomore numbers.
They've had some big wins this year.
They have
some surprising wins, and then some okay, why'd you lose?
Yep.
It's one of those years for them. It's just
growing pains. They're just not going to be a great team. They don't have any kind of defense to speak of.
They have again. They just traded away They had a really good tandem with Etienne and what's his name? Robinson.
Sorry. James Robinson.
Yeah, James Robinson. They just traded him away.
Yeah.
So again, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, Etienne's a great running back, but it's always good to have two running backs.
It is, and I'm sure they probably have someone on the practice squad.
Yeah, of course.
But Etienne has been showing a lot of improvement very recently. They still have Marvin Jones Jr. On their
Chris Kirk.
Or Christian
Kirk. Yep.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of talent in a year, in 2 years, especially if they get some good defensive pieces in the draft. This could be, an A kind of team. Honestly, what the Jaguars, I imagine, are trying to do is something similar to the Bengals rebuilding plan, right? You get a star young quarterback, get some fast weapons around him, a good running back, and just offensively carry it. So we'll see. But C, I think, is where they belong.
I think C is good.
Same with the Saints. Saints have been playing C level.
Yeah, C level. Could be D. Again, I mean,
Quarterback remains their issue.
Quarterback is their
consistency.
Exactly. And they put, I mean, this past week, Kamara struggled. This past week, they had Jameis on the bench. Again, we don't know injury-wise. We don't know that whole situation. But Dalton was put in there, especially for he doesn't turn the ball over. He's known for not turning the ball over, but then this past game had two pick sixes.
Yep. And that's what lost it.
Yeah,
so,
they were up big.
Yep.
They were up big with momentum and everything, and then all of a sudden, two pick sixes, and then just couldn't recover.
Yep. So I think until we see more consistency out of them, C is still good. I mean, they have Michael Thomas. They have talent, but they're just struggling. So we'll see what they do.
And they could go down again. Seattle Seahawks.
I think you got to move them up.
Move them up to B.
You have to move them up to B.
I think they're the same as these two.
They have impressed hugely, and I think out of nowhere, because the difference is we all knew that the Jets and the Giants were trying to rebuild this year. Not even this year. The last couple of years, we've been watching them struggle with the rebuild. Whereas with Seattle, we were all expecting to see the tank begin. And they have not been tanking. Geno Smith has been playing amazingly well. He is
one of the biggest surprise of football.
He is leading all quarterbacks in completion percentage. He is, I believe, top 5 QBR and rating.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Unbelievable. And so,
and the thing
can that sustain, or is it surprising? Hard to say.
Kenneth Walker, another great addition. The new running back has just been playing really well recently. Obviously, they have injuries to running backs, but hopefully they'll come back. Don't know the whole situation with that, but Kenneth Walker obviously playing well. DK Metcalf did get hurt this past week, and I did not see exactly the full story, but I don't know how bad or severe that injury is. That could be big for them.
They still have Tyler Lockett, though.
But they have Tyler Lockett. Again, I think B is the correct place for them.
B is the correct place.
All right, last one in the C tier is Washington, I think.
I think they stay. They've got some talent. Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel.
Showed up this past week.
Yes.
Very big plays for them. And I think their defensive line is very solid.
Yes.
But
too inconsistent as well.
Quarterback play.
They can't get it in. And also, Carson Wentz, I believe, is hurt now.
Yeah, Carson Wentz broken thumb.
Yes.
Broken finger. I don't know if it was the thumb or not, but he's out for a couple
weeks. Yeah. So I think C, they're kind of playing how we expected.
All right, let's move up. B tier.
Ravens, gotta put it A. I think we'd have to go back and rewatch it. At the time, I think that we had said that the Ravens are an
That's why I think we put
A-tier team.
But they hadn't done anything recently.
They hadn't done anything the last couple of years, or at least last year. And so it was sort of if they prove it, we'll move it, and they've proved it. Lamar Jackson, I was looking, and he's the top 5 rusher in the NFL as he was
as a running back. Quarterback.
Yeah. And so they're playing very well. Clearly, they still need to, I think, fix the one problem they've always had, which is wide receivers. They really need to get more options there, but they're playing well.
Yeah. All right. This one was the one that at the beginning of the year, I said C fringe, and you were like, we're going B.
Yep. And I will be honest. The talent on the Panthers, they are one of, I think, one of the most disappointing teams because the Panthers' offense, until miraculously when they blew it up this last week, I don't know what to make of that, but it was the worst in the NFL.
Yeah, it was bad.
I don't know if statistically that's true.
Atrocious.
To watch it, it was the worst in the NFL.
It was atrocious.
It was embarrassing to watch Baker Mayfield struggle to get third downs. Christian McCaffrey, I mean, he would have big plays, but it wasn't enough. Robbie Anderson has just been dead in the water.
Don't have to worry about him anymore.
Yeah, we'll see if he does anything over with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
But the Panthers, I think, have been playing terribly. The defense, as we had talked about, has been outperforming expectations. They've actually been fairly solid. It's tough to know how they would be with less time that they have to be on the field. Obviously, they just stomped the Buccaneers.
Yeah, that's the biggest, the weirdest thing to see.
Without that, the Panthers have been a D-tier team the entire season.
Easily.
They are tied they might be leading the division with 2 wins. They beat the Saints and the Buccaneers, but they're
with their division wins.
But they're 2-5.
Yeah, that's the thing.
In striking distance of the division lead, but
that's the thing.
I think from a talent perspective
and the future, that's so.
It's logical to say they should be D. The win over the Buccaneers feels like an aberration. It's completely unexpected. They couldn't be B. It would be D or C right now.
I think, but they're the same Bears. Like I look at them and say Bears.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have to look at that and think of the situations, right?
Yep.
You guys also lost your coach. Like that's huge.
And so I think that's
and you're selling
that's the
pieces,
question
whereas the Bears aren't doing anything.
Right. The question is losing the coach a solution?
Mm-hmm.
We will see if there's actually some miraculous hegemony or whatever that comes out of this, but until that's proven, I think you have to put them at D.
I do
and we
agree.
have to treat the Bucs. If they keep winning, we'll
yeah, obviously. But I mean,
expect D season. They have to be tanking.
They have to be, and that's the thing. Because I mean, you guys
we
obviously sold a couple pieces already.
Yeah, they have to be going for a top quarterback in the draft.
I mean, you gotta be talking to. I mean, I would hope you're going for a top quarterback in the draft, and you just want to make sure that's the next solution for you guys. I mean, that's just the next step, I would say. I mean, that's the quarterback. You're a quarterback away, but now, I mean,
we've been a quarterback away. I think yes, we'll see, but I think that D, talent-wise, we'll see what they do. But D seems like the place.
I mean, you guys are I mean, it's a rebuilding time for you guys, so it's going to be very interesting to see. That's for sure.
Okay, then Colts.
Oof.
Solid B.
Solid. I mean,
they're 3-1, right? If I remember right.
Yeah.
They just benched Matt Ryan.
Yeah, that's what confuses. It doesn't confuse me, but that's what concerns me about keeping them in B. You don't have a quarterback situation there. Like you don't know your starting quarterback.
But they have Jonathan Taylor still, who is a top 3 running back, top 4, I would say. Very good. They still have what's his name, right? The pass rusher.
I mean, they have the talent.
The pieces.
They have the talent, but at the same time, it's like.
But they're also an average record.
The average record.
I think keep them at B.
Okay.
I think they're an average team.
Mm-hmm.
If they have to bring Matt Ryan back out, they will. But
I see what you're saying. I guess B makes sense.
They just want to try something different. But if they bring him back, we'll keep seeing the same kind of mediocre play.
Mm-hmm.
Broncos, whereas the Giants and the Jets have been very big positive surprises, the Broncos have been the biggest disappointment maybe in the entire NFL.
Biggest disappointment. I would definitely agree with that.
I mean, we put them in B, I remember, because we thought the Broncos have struggled. We're going to put Russell Wilson into the system, and there will be growing pains.
Mm-hmm.
and we thought they would underperform their on-paper expectations. But I'll speak for myself. I had no conception of how bad this team was going to be playing.
Because I think we were even discussing like they were fringe A. I think we were discussing between them and the Raiders, which again, not good either.
Right.
But I think we're like, okay, 3 teams in this division are going to make the playoffs.
Right.
Right. And so that's what I mean. Looking at it, obviously, the Broncos and the Raiders not performed up to standard, obviously.
And the Broncos, the one thing that I did not think would be the problem would be Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I assumed that he wouldn't roll into the system like everyone thought he would, but I assumed he would begin playing okay, right? I thought he would be okay, and they would hang in, they would be an okay team. They've got Jerry Jeudy. They still have Melvin Gordon.
They did lose their starting running back.
Yeah.
And they have, Melvin Gordon, you could see was really upset. I don't know if it was this weekend or
the week or last week. That.
Was really pissed off about the situation that he's running in. Latavius Murray's a great running back, but, I mean, it's tough to say. I couldn't say D. I don't know how bad Russell Wilson's injury is because Russell Wilson's also injured. So
the talent is way above C. Way above the teams that we're putting them with, but they have to put them with. They have to because they are playing so badly.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect, theoretically they should move back up to B. But
I don't honestly, know if they
sometimes when a team is performing so poorly below its own standards and they don't understand what the problem is, sometimes they just fall apart and unravel. And so maybe they won't get better. But yeah, big disappointment. Out of the Broncos. The Vikings, I think, we'd put them in B just because Kirk Cousins up and down. They had a okay season last year.
And I think the thing about this though too is to look at is the Vikings haven't had a good win, but they also haven't had a good loss.
Yeah.
Or a bad loss. I mean, they had a bye week this week, so obviously there's nothing to look at this week. You have to really go based on record and talent wise, and they have the talent.
Yes.
They have the record.
Justin Jefferson's playing well.
It's just they also have Kirk Cousins.
Yep, and that's been the X factor for them all along.
And I think that's what you have to say. I mean, I think they deserve to move up. Obviously, record and talent wise, but I mean, I think that's all that you can do. I don't think you can do much more than that. I think they're probably going to win the NFC North
because with Kirk Cousins, it's hard to rely on him in playoffs or tight situations. But
we'll see what happens.
All right, I think they've earned it.
Patriots.
I think the Patriots are B.
I agree. I'm not going to freak out over a weird thing. They're 3-3, right?
What we're seeing is kind of we're seeing Bill Belichick, I think, coaching above his talent level, right? I can't really name any who's the best player. Like, who is the wide receiver they picked up?
That's the thing.
From the Dolphins. I can't even... Devontae Parker.
they have Parker. Do they have Aguilar, too? They have,
Nelson Aguilar, maybe.
They have a bunch of
done
interesting receivers. Jacoby Myers, obviously. But they also have...
Myers is maybe their top.
They have 2 good running backs. Yep. Obviously, Stevenson
has done
and
really
Harris.
Well. He's emerged as their top back.
And then, of course, they have a solid defense. Obviously, Bill Belichick is going to have a solid defense. But then again... Look at their division on here.
Yeah.
You have the Jets, which is a B tier that we said that's a surprise.
Yep.
Obviously, the Dolphins are we're going to get to them, but they're going to be up there as well. And then they have the Bills, arguably one of the best teams in the NFL.
Yes.
So I don't think you can move them up above B.
No, I agree.
And maybe they might go to C just based on who's in their division.
Yep.
But we're not going to move them.
Yep. I think that's perfect.
Eagles.
Gotta put S.
You have to. Undefeated team, only undefeated team. Got good wins, too.
And I think, they struggled last year. Jalen Hurts, I've thought for a while, it's been a little confusing in how people have treated him as a quarterback. Similar to Lamar Jackson, right? Where they're very similar, I would say, in the sense that they're both very mobile. Clearly, though, Lamar Jackson is... Way more mobile.
I don't know.
As far as
Lamar Jackson's very mobile.
He's a running back almost.
Yeah.
But Jalen Hurts is probably the next
Yeah.
most mobile back in the NFL.
Well, oof. With Murray.
Or Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray. I mean, I saw the other night. I mean, he just was so mobile. Like, I mean, he starts running. He's super fat. I mean, it's those three guys are just ridiculously good at running.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts, like, he has a lot of talent.
Yeah.
He was going to be good, but
I mean, AJ Brown addition is amazing.
And
for them.
I did not appreciate
we
myself
messed that one up.
how huge that would be, right?
Yeah.
Like the Eagles, I guess looking back on it, they've had injuries plaguing them the last couple of years, but they have just been dominant.
They've been
absolutely
you
dominant.
can't say anything else about it. They've just been undefeated.
Yep.
Great wins. All right, next Steelers.
Yep. See. They've the defense has been,
TJ Watt
good.
is most likely going to miss a lot of the season, if not all of it.
TJ Watt's injured.
It's just
and so it's hard to like come
their
back.
quarterback situation again. Pickett, I think Pickett is solid. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. Not an amazing quarterback. We don't know yet, I should say. Harris
has struggled though.
But yeah, I think they're pretty. Again, I could see them as B maybe, but again, I think C is just where they're going to be.
Yep.
All right, Tennessee Titans.
I think B.
I think it's keeping them.
Keep it B. Their offense is not what it was last year, 2 years ago.
Because what's their record? Do you have it in front of you?
I can.
But obviously with Derrick Henry, you're talking about a really good running back. Obviously, their offense is Derrick Henry majority of the time. They got rid of AJ Brown, but they still have a good record. I mean, they're still a solid team. 4-2, exactly.
Right. So their defense not really good, but not bad. First in the AFC South. They barely lost to the Giants by 1, and then of course the Bills destroyed them.
Who are their wins against?
2 on the Colts, 1 on the Raiders, and 1 on the Commanders. So
yeah, I agree
awesome
with B.
wins, right? Just they've
lost who they're supposed to lose to,
team.
and they've beat who they're supposed to beat.
Yep, no upsets, no blowout, like unexpected blowout loss, no unexpected loss. They have Robert Woods.
Yeah.
But he has not been the replacement for AJ Brown.
I mean, again, I think B is the correct place for them. I don't see much worse, much better by the end of the year.
I agree.
All right. I think this is the rest of the B that we've already done. So let's move up to A.
Yep. The Bengals, I think, are actually A.
I think so too.
Keep them at A.
I think so too.
We had talked about how we thought they would have a little bit of a lapse from last year. It felt too much like a Cinderella run. And they might even be. Are they 4-3 or 3-4?
I think they're not 3-4. I think they're 4-3. I think is what their record is.
So they've had some struggles.
I think this past game though they won pretty convincingly.
17-35 over the Falcons. Yeah, they're 4-3.
They're 4-3. I think they're turning it around now.
I agree, and it's the offense again. I don't think we've seen anything awesome from this defense, but we saw maybe some hiccups with Joe Burrow early on in the season. The rust seems to be breaking off, and I think they're a solid A.
I think top of A. I'd say top A.
Yep.
I think that's where they're. I think they're pretty good where they're at. I think the Cardinals are the same way. I think the Cardinals
are 3-4. Right?
They're 3-4.
Yep.
That's tough.
I think.
Oh my gosh! I mean,
this
I would
is a
say,
moment of flux because DeAndre Hopkins is back.
DeAndre Hopkins, Robbie Anderson, or whatever.
Robbie Anderson, they're getting.
But I can say he won't do that much.
It's tough to know how to measure in those 2 pick sixes, which is how they beat the Saints.
Yeah.
So
do you go B?
I think
top of B.
Honestly, the Cardinals have been one of my biggest surprises as well, just for how average they've played. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt going forward, though, and say DeAndre Hopkins is back, Robbie Anderson is added, that they will keep winning. I think the big thing has been James Conner, I think, is hurt.
Yeah.
And they've just struggled in the run game.
I think that's,
But
exactly.
I think
they can't run out the clock.
Maybe we keep it A.
I'd say keep it A.
Because they've been playing B quality football. I think it will be A going forward.
I think so as well.
But maybe we'll eat our words later. But right now.
But I don't think we're going to. Again, it's one of those things where I don't think it's going to be eating it too much. If they go B, they go B. I don't think it's going to be like a...
They're not a terrible team.
No.
They've got too much talent. And
now,
so...
My team.
Yeah.
I think we discussed before this show. Record-wise, C team. Upper C, maybe mid-C.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put them B, though. I think, again, at the end of the year, could they be moved down to C? Yes. At the end of the year, could they be moved up to A? Yes. But I think it's the same thing that we were discussing in the beginning of the year. I think the team obviously wasn't going to benefit from the Devontae Adams trade.
Right.
I think, yes, we wanted to spread out the throws or whatever, but once you get injuries like we've had, you realize that he's spreading it out to not the best wide receivers, obviously. Obviously, play calling has been in question with all of the offense. Defense, again, I don't think defense is the issue. I think the issue with the defense is how much they have to play because of how poorly the offense is playing.
Yes.
I think the simplest way that all Packers are thinking is run the ball more. Obviously, we're not head coaches in the NFL or offensive coordinators in the NFL. Outside looking in, though, run the ball more. I mean, we're talking about it. Aaron Jones is averaging over 5 yards a carry. It makes sense. You got to, like Aaron Rodgers said, simplify the offense. But then why are you only having 12 rush attempts?
Yep.
If you're going to simplify the offense, why are you only rushing the ball 12 times in a game?
Yep.
And it wasn't like it was a blowout. It wasn't like we were getting blown out and we have to pass to get back into the game. We were leading for the majority of the game, and then all of a sudden they just kept,
But that has been the story for you guys for, I would say, a couple of years. You always come out strong, and then struggle in the last half.
And that's the thing is, like, we always again, I thought this game would be different. We were up 14-3, getting the ball off of a punt, muff punt. That is huge.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking, again, special teams is another issue. But the thing is if you're looking at the team itself, you have to say talent is there. Again, maybe we trade for a piece or two before the deadline, and that'll change it a little bit. But we need to figure out offense, and we need to not necessarily figure out who we're going to pass to, but just figure out how to win. And that's the thing is you win by, taking a lot of the clock, tiring out the defense, helping out your defense by, giving them rest and stuff. And it's just, finally we rearranged the offensive line, and the offensive line played a lot better this past game. It was really just not the best decisions on offense. Obviously, muff punts and everything. Special teams is, we don't have anybody there just to receive punts for some reason. And then defense is just tired. So I think the talent is there. Obviously, going into the year, we were looking at maybe a top 10 to top 5 defense just based on personnel. So that hasn't changed. And then offensively, our main offense should be running the ball.
Yep. The wide receiver problem.
The wide receiver problem is no. And the injuries are a big issue. And again, could we trade for a wide receiver? Of course. But will that solve the issues? You don't know. But
Probably.
I think, it should.
Yeah.
But then again, you never know. Because I would still say, even if we get a wide receiver, run the ball more.
Yes.
Like, I still am strongly believing that. We have injuries on wide receivers where, again, they aren't season-ending injuries, but we need to bridge that gap between when they come back. And, again, even when they come back, we need to run the ball. But I don't think it's any more B. I think B is pretty much where they're going to be.
Yep. I agree.
And then they are still 3 and 4. It's not like they're, 2 and 5, 1 and 6, whatever. They're not terrible. They're very middle of the pack with, again, an above average roster.
Yep.
Chiefs.
Gotta put them in S.
Yeah.
I think, put them there. They're 5-2. They lost to the Colts. That's not great. It was by 3, and then they lost to the Bills by 4. But they've pretty much had their way.
I mean, you're talking a team that, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is hot. I mean, it's just going to be
it just seems
inevitable.
Seems right, yeah.
Chargers.
Okay, actually, you know what? They only beat the Raiders by 1.
Interesting.
And they only beat the Chargers by 3.
Are you saying moving back down to A?
Keep them at A.
Okay.
Keep them at A.
I think obviously whenever we do this next, I think they're going to be up at S, or they could be.
Could be.
But we don't want to move it quite yet.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it.
We'll see if they prove themselves. They get to
Mm-hmm.
play the Chargers again in a couple weeks and the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Chargers, speaking of, Chargers have kind of struggled. I've been surprised. I'm not really sure what the problem is. They're 4-3. I think they have the talent to still be
But I think further down, I'd say. I mean, they've got to be lower A, upper B.
They don't have any good wins, though. So, B, I think you have to. Until they beat a real team.
Yeah, I agree. I think upper B. Raiders.
The Raiders have been very disappointing. Unbelievably disappointing. What is their record? Are they like 2-4?
2-5. Or did they have a bye already? Yeah, I think they had a bye.
2-4. Yeah, unbelievable. They've only beat the Broncos and the Texans.
They're not D though. I'd say C.
No. Their talent is talent. Like that's what's unbelievable. And they have a soft schedule coming up, and they've had a soft, in hindsight, like the Cardinals. They lost. That's one of 3 wins for the Cardinals, right? Is beating the Raiders. So it's just not.
Are you saying B or are you saying C?
C.
Still? Okay.
No, I think C. They've played like a C team. I think they have to turn it around here. They play Saints, Jaguars, Colts, Broncos, Seahawks.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it doesn't get softer than that. So they
you
have to turn
you
it
gotta
around
put up at least
with that
4
talent,
wins.
but
5 wins at least there. All right, San Francisco.
A.
Keep it A.
They're 3-4, I think, but they just traded for Christian McCaffrey
and I don't want to move them. It's one of those things where it's like they could be B, but I don't want to move them. I want to keep them at A. But like you said, Christian McCaffrey trade's a big plus, and I think that'll go a long way for them as well.
They have one of the best rosters in the league, and I really think, like, let me just look. I want to see their losses. Well, they lost to the Bears,
Oof.
and they've lost to the Broncos,
Oof.
and the Falcons.
Oh.
We didn't look at that before.
Bears, Broncos, and Falcons. C and D teams. Those are
I
some
think
C
maybe
and D
you move.
teams.
Yep, gotta move them.
Gotta move them to B.
I didn't realize those are bad losses. I did not look
losses.
at that. They beat the Rams. They beat the Seahawks. They beat the Panthers. But the Panthers is not a good win.
No.
The Rams 24-9. That's a good win.
It's a good win.
The Seahawks is a good win. It looks like now better win.
Again, I think B is good
Yep,
because their losses have been bad.
I expect them to turn it around coming forward, but those are bad losses.
Yeah, you have to put them down at least one.
Buccaneers gotta move down. How disappointing! The loss to the Panthers was mind blowing because it was not close.
And I think it's the same thing because they're 3-4 as well, so they have the exact same record, exact same loss type of thing. Washington versus Panthers. Again, same kind of losses or whatever. And then also you're looking at this in like rosters. That's the only reason that they're here. Like we were talking about with the Jets.
Those are both A roster teams. That's why we put them there, and they are playing bad football.
And you think, I mean,
and they should be A moving forward. They should be A now, and so it's hard to understand. But
I just don't. You can't move them now.
Can't move them now.
I think you have to put them. You have to put them at B. Same with the Jets and the Giants, like we were saying earlier. This one, not as good roster. Record speaks otherwise. This one, way better roster. Obviously, record speaks otherwise.
So Dolphins
A.
Dolphins A.
I don't think we have to go freak out too much. I think they're a really good team. I think their offense is amazing.
Yep, their offense is one of the best, if not the best in the league. Defensively, they're not terrible.
It's just,
but it's like
It's like I said, I don't want to move them yet.
Yep.
I think maybe later in the year, obviously they could be S tier, but I think they're good right there.
Yeah, they've
Obviously,
exploded out of the gate, but we'll see if they cool. They're playing good.
Bills don't have to really speak up. They're
Bills have dominated as we thought.
They're S.
Rams have really struggled.
I think they're A.
I'm not yet ready to drop them to B. Their record is average, but the talent is still there. They're just having that post Super Bowl hangover, but I really think they should pull it back out and start doing better. Cowboys.
The Cowboys are a weird team for me. They are. I think. Again, it's recency to say A, right? I want to push them at A just because I know what they do at the end of the year. But it's one of those situations where right now they're doing really well.
Their defense is
amazing. And their offense has so many weapons.
And I think the big thing for me was, this is the one I was feeling really dumb about week 1, right? Because they just lose terribly to the Buccaneers out of the gate. And then I believe week 2, Dak Prescott gets hurt. Even though they won that, he's hurt. And so it's like, all right, so they're 1-1. Dak's out. They're going to be terrible. But for me, seeing that they could just put Cooper Rush in and continue to win, they dropped one game, and who is that too?
I mean, they're just a well-built
solid team. They lost once with Cooper Rush to the Eagles, who is one of the most dominant teams in the NFL. I really think with their wins over the Bengals, over the Giants, over the Rams, those are all great wins. Their defense has held every team that they have played to under 20, except for the Eagles, who had 26. I think that it's.
I think these two teams are the top. I think these two teams are obviously 1A, 1B.
Right now, I'd say we keep the Cowboys. They've just been solid.
Definitely.
Kansas City, I feel like we should be putting them higher, but they just had some bad losses.
It's just, I mean, they did just beat San Francisco, which is a great win. And then
maybe.
I think that's a great win.
It should be, but
again, I don't want to move them, right? I think again,
give ourselves some credit.
It's funny seeing a couple of these teams on the A side.
Yeah.
Because the Bengals, Chiefs, and Dolphins all could be A teams.
Yep.
And I think there's a step. I think this is weird because I think there's a step from here. I think these three teams are S fringe, and these are A, solid A.
Maybe the Cardinals down at the end there.
I see what you're saying. I think these two teams, maybe not solid A. These are fringe B teams. I think there's definitely a big difference between. Do we put the Rams at B?
I don't think so. I think it's too early to say. Okay. They've struggled, but Matt Stafford has struggled.
That's the thing.
And so it's
that's the thing.
I still think though that he can pull it out, change it potentially.
They did just have a bye. They're 3-3.
Yep.
If they're 4-2, I'd feel better about it. But
I'm still give them the benefit of the doubt. Let me look at their record.
Well, you go over there. They're 3-3. They're B tier record with an A talent team.
Yep.
So I guess that makes sense then.
So they're on the fringe, but let me look at their record.
That'll determine it then. Who'd they beat and who'd they lose to?
So they've lost only to the Bills, 49ers, and Cowboys.
Okay.
So 2 S tier teams.
Yeah.
And then a solid enough team.
B,
they've just been up and down.
You're right. A's good.
So
I agree. Okay. Awesome. Well, I think that settles it for this, or at least for week 7.
Yep. And we'll see. We'll see if things become more sensical. If we can get some kind of cohesive understanding of what the Jets and Giants are doing. Is it an aberration? Is it here to stay? Are the Cardinals and 49ers going to actually improve with the players that they are receiving or are coming back from suspensions. We'll see in a couple weeks if Deshaun Watson brings the Browns around.
Buccaneers, Packers.
Are the Buccaneers and Packers on the decline?
Or are they just, at a road bump that'll pop up?
Yep.
I mean, obviously I hope we're going to move up the Packers towards the end of the year, obviously.
Yep.
But, we'll have to see. Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. But
thanks for watching. Obviously, leave your thoughts in the comments below. We could have discussions in there.
Yeah, and we'll respond to them in our next video.
Definitely. Have a good one. Peace out.